What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 75. Today's guest is Shawn Hanquist. He's a good friend of mine, and also he has helped me with my business in doing all the financial stuff, some of the stuff that I just don't know how to do or I'm just not good at. So, weird episode today in that we are not actually going to talk about most of the stuff that he does as his career, but to pitch him anyways, because he is a good friend of mine. He owns the company, or he just sold the majority share of the company Fit CFO, where they specialize in doing the finances, payroll, bookkeeping, and stuff for online fitness coaches. But he does own the company Fit Wealth Advisors. And you guys will have a free thing from him, a free business health check down in the show notes. But what we're actually going to be talking about today is his love for bridging the gap between health and wealth, his love for hunting. We talked most of this episode about hunting, but he's also a competitive bodybuilder. So lots of things going on. He's also a father and a husband. So he has a lot of things going on, but we talk mostly about hunting, our bow hunting setups, his elk hunt last year, which was his first successful elk hunt. And we just kind of have a fun conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy, especially those of you who are curious about hunting, who do hunt, or you want to get into hunting, or just those of you who are like, I will never hunt, but I like hearing the stories. So without further ado, here's Shawn. What's up, Shawn?
Howdy. How's it going, buddy?
I am good. I'm tired. So if I space out at all, I'm going to apologize in advance to the listeners with the newborn. But how are you doing?
Doing good, man. I totally remember those years. The sleepless nights and rocking the babies to sleep. So, more the power to you, brother.
It's a journey. It's getting better. It's a little bit better this week, but the past couple of weeks it's been like, oh man, like middle of the afternoon, like 3 o'clock. I'm like, I need a nap. Like I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm napping. Like that was my planned workout time. My workouts are now naps.
Yeah. So how's mom doing too? How's she doing?
Stressed. Mom's doing okay, but
Good.
she is, our newborn's very like clingy. So it's like, we can't put her down. And my wife's very like type A, everything's super tidy. Like we are complete opposites in this way. Everything needs to be neat. If you look in like the HGTV magazines of the kitchens, that's what she wants the kitchen to look like at all times. And she can't. She has the newborn on her, and she's like tried to do stuff like, I'm so stressed out. There's like things on the counter. And I'm like, not that person. So for me, it doesn't bother me. So she's like, why is there stuff in the sink? I'm like, oh, right. I should probably put that away.
All righty, man. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad the baby's doing well. Glad mom's doing well. And yeah.
One day at a time.
Yeah, there you go, man. Drink plenty of coffee. That's all I can say.
Three cup, or no, today was not 3 cups. Today was the normal 2 cups.
All righty. Well, as I'm drinking.
As you're drinking, hey. I've been doing 3 cups the past couple of days. I just didn't have time. The other thing is I always grind all my beans fresh. So if the baby's asleep and I go for that 3rd cup of coffee, it's not happening.
No grinding.
No grind, because it's right by her bassinet downstairs. So literally she sleeps right basically next to the coffee grinder. Like, I'm not saying that thing off. Like, I'll be tired instead of a screaming child.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I brought you on because 1, you're a bodybuilder, and 2, you love backcountry hunting. You have worked with me in my business for a little over a year now with your stuff, but we've connected because we both love hunting, and you do a lot of backcountry elk hunting, which is super intense. Bow hunting mostly, right?
Yeah, the last 3 years have been bow hunting, and then probably about 5 years of rifle hunting in the backcountry.
Okay. So a lot of people are thinking like, how do I get in shape for the season? And do I have to go the Cameron Haynes route? Because I think that's kind of what social media shows. It either shows like people are like doing the extremes of like running 8+ miles a day every single day, or it's the hunter that is like the Orange Army of like, okay, they pull into the parking lot, they walk like 500 feet in, and then they're like, I don't know why I don't see anything.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I love your office, my friend.
Thank you.
That is super sick. I have a new office now. So you remember my old office, I had my
Yes.
ear heads, and so I'm gonna have to rearrange here so you can see it on camera in the future. But love the office, love backcountry hunting. It is something that I just strive for. I have just an extreme passion. And to me, it's more than just the elk hunting, it's the outdoor experience
Mhm.
for me as well. So that's why I love going backcountry and going deep and just getting away. Honestly, the first few days, my friend, I'm homesick. Like it's different world out there, not having
Mhm.
your cell phone, not being connected to the family. And it's painful knowing like I can't get a hold of anybody if I needed to. But day 3 and day 4, when you're back there, it is life changing. Like it
Okay.
is just something that I think everybody should experience. Just being out there, just surviving on your own and no electronics. But so, I mean, that's my passion. That's what I love. Every year, I'm actually going to try eventually to be able to take the whole month of September off so I can really dial it in and try to get my elk every year because the odds are not great.
No,
They're
they're not.
on backcountry hunting. I mean, a lot of states are 5, 7, maybe 10% at best. So I find if I can spend more time in the backcountry, I think my success should go up quite a bit. Um,
Yeah, definitely. There's just a time thing, like being
time
out there.
it takes time to find the herd. It's take time to hunt them. And then if you only have 3 or 4 days to hunt, it's hard to get it done.
Yeah. Well,
And so the question that you were kind of presenting is of getting in shape and getting ready for these backcountry hunts. Not fair the last 3 out of the 8 years because I was in competition prep just coming off a show. So I was just super intense, like in my cardio to be ready for the bodybuilding shows. I could run up and down those mountains. Like it was no big deal. No, obviously the elevation, the altitude got me at first. But coming off a competition prep, it was awesome. I can run up and down those mountains. My cardio wasn't crazy into my competition preps, just to kind of give you at the end, it was probably an hour a day of like uphill treadmill climb.
it's not crazy.
So I think it's doable for anybody. And I don't think you need to be as lean, as mean as I was to do a competition to be able to do this. If you could spend 40 minutes uphill treadmill climb, I think you're going to be ready for it. I mean, 60 to 90 days out. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, you probably don't want to be too lean going into it because doing all that hiking in the backcountry, you burn a ton of calories.
Mm,
So being too lean could actually play like if you're spending more time out there, like more than say like 5 days, that could play against you if you're not able to get like 10,000 calories a day. And
yeah. My last competition last year, I was in body. I was at 3.9 in
you
August.
were super lean. I saw the pictures. Like you were really lean.
Yeah, so I was 3.9 in August. Show was mid August, so I had a couple weeks. I probably started on the mountain around September 10th. So I had about 3, 4 weeks to try to increase my food to get, but I was probably still only what, 7, 8%.
Still
Uh,
lean.
Definitely not ideal. Just temperature fluctuation, hormone fluctuation, being out on the mountain. It was real. Like I would sit there as my hormones are fluctuating out there, just a lot colder than I
Mhm.
normally am on other years when I'm not as lean. So there's just so much that goes into it, especially when you're in the backcountry and you only can take what you can take.
Yep.
Like sometimes fires are optional. Like you just don't know if you can get a fire going. Like so, it's kind of the survival is a big challenge.
Yeah. I mean, here I'm lucky. Like, okay, it's super cold. I'm just gonna call it a day and just go back home. And like the one time I got a little too cold, and it was like, okay, just warm up a hot bath and jump in that. But
Yeah.
you don't have that luxury, in the backcountry. Like the most backcountry hunting I do is like when we go to bear camp, and
Hmm.
it's not really backcountry. Like the cabin is 30 minutes away.
Got it. Yeah. So where we've hunt a lot of the years, we probably set our base camp at 8,000, 8,500 in elevation. And then it's about a 2 to 3 mile, pretty much climb up. I assume it's about a 2,500 feet elevation increase.
Okay.
And then
Very
so we
different than
like
here.
yeah, so we set up a spike camp probably 3 miles away from our base camp, and it's a 2 or 3 hour hike up on that elevation to get there. And there's been a lot of years that we try to do that day after day, but you just wear yourself out, just
Oh yeah.
tremendously, just draining. Do it a few days, but then you're worn out. So a lot of times we just haul it up once what we can, and then we'll set up a spike camp and hunt out a camp at that, 10-4, 10-7 elevation, and then drop down if we need to during the day. So once we're up there, we might be hiking 7 miles, 12 miles a day, but it's not necessarily the elevation up and down where we've been hunting. So it's pretty doable, but you still put on a lot of the miles.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably burning per mile, probably two with all your stuff, at least 200 calories per mile. So if you're doing that's 1400 calories above your BMR minimum,
Sure.
not even including like trying to stay warm.
Yeah. So that kind of speaks of that too. I try to eat about 3,500 calories, and I try to like really dial in my daily food, because there's been a lot of years before I knew much about nutrition and food that I just grabbed what I could grab,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not organized, and I had no idea how much I was eating on a daily basis. So now I'm really trying to dial it in, put them in like day bags.
Yeah.
You just pack the day bags. Like Monday, I know exactly everything in there that adds up to like say 3,500 calories, and I feel pretty good on that.
Nice. Do you use like the peak refuel or whatever
Yeah.
the you use those
I've
guys?
done the mountain houses. I've done the peaks. The is it the peak refuel? I think that's what they
I
call
think that's what they're called.
it. That is by far my favorite.
Okay.
And then I try to have one of those a day,
Nice.
and
Because
they're usually 2 servings.
they're a good amount of calories.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have anywhere from 20 grams of fat to 85 grams of fat, right? And then the protein. So kind of there's a lot of meals that they're pretty good, and they vary, but they vary a lot in fat and protein. So you kind of have to watch the label, so you're getting enough proteins, enough fats, even with those, because all the calories are not the same, right? So try to dial that in. I have one of those a day, and then I just pack a lot of like peanut butter, nuts, walnuts, something that I don't have to cook
Mhm.
or refrigerate on a daily basis.
Okay. So a lot of that kind of some of the stuff I hear, like people who do the Appalachian Trail, like some people go as far as like just packing up a bottle of olive oil. Like, okay, like just drink that. That
Mm.
works.
Can work. But yeah, so just a lot of walnuts. I also do a lot of oatmeal, and
Okay.
then like protein powders as well. So I'll have a couple servings of oatmeal, and then I'll have protein powder, and I'll just drink that together dry without cooking it. Just put my water in there, shake it up, and I'll have my oatmeal
Oh,
protein
nice.
for breakfast. It's quick, it's fast. I don't have to worry about fire or boiling water or anything like that.
You can just do that in the morning and get going.
Get going, because a lot of times as after days go off, like you want to get up early, but a lot of times you tend to oversleep. You're just tired, and it's getting up early anyway. So I hate getting up an extra 45 minutes early or half hour early to make a breakfast. And then a lot of times, I didn't tell you, I kind of have some I cheat a little bit going up that mountain. Growing up in a small town and being around farm animals, and I grew up around horses,
Mhm.
so I do take horses when I go to the backcountry, and not every year, don't get me wrong, but most years, like this year, we're going to be taking horses too.
Nice.
So a lot of times, those horses will take up a lot more luxuries going up to the spike camp, and then we're able to get everything we need up to spike camp, and we just keep the horses up there with us. So if
Okay.
we elk down, we can bring the horses and get the elk out, and we can pack a lot more luxury items up on top of the mountain by bringing the horses. But don't get me
Absolutely.
wrong, they're flatland or Nebraska horses, so they really can't do a whole lot more than what we can do, if that makes sense.
So it's more like it's just a few extra luxuries. It
You
helps like
actually
not
actually
wear you out.
a lot of times, we'll put, at least our backpack on them, and then their food, and then like our tent and stuff, so we can walk without anything on our back, and then
Okay.
carry that up. But a lot of times we'll end up just walking, and then they'll be carrying up our camp.
I mean,
Uh,
that makes a big difference because if you look at calorie burn, like walking uphill with no weight versus you throw even, just 30 pounds on your back, which bow, tent, cooking equipment, food. Like 30 pounds is not
And if you're
much.
going up there for 4 or 5 days and you're packing all that food and everything, it's not unrealistic to have close to 70
Yeah.
pounds, probably at least 60 pounds in your pack. And I've done that before, and it's just, you're worn out.
Yeah. So it makes sense why you would do that. Of like you're not wearing yourself out, so then you can actually have that
Yeah.
energy for hunting because it's very difficult to actually like recover day after day.
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll, leave the horses just at spike camp up there, and then we'll just hunt from spike camp. And that's where we get a lot of miles on, and then if we get something down, we come back and get the horses. But I'm telling you, the horses sounds like a great luxury, but it is like having a baby up there, a child up on the mountain. Like they're a lot of pain. They're a pain in the ass, to be honest. Most of the time, it's just, they're nice when you actually are going up the mountain. You're like, oh wow, this is great. But then once you're up there and you have to feed, water them, 3 o'clock in the morning, one of them comes untied or wraps himself around the tree. Like there's a lot of work involved with them as well. So, but growing up as a kid and just, I've always just like kind of like idolized that scene of like having the horses and taking out your elk on the horses. It just like, it's just something that just lights my fire.
That's pretty awesome. What's it like hauling the elk off the mountain? Like, how do you prepare for that if you don't have the horses? Because that's obviously
Yeah.
a lot of weight.
So last year, so keep in mind, it's taken me 8 years, and last year was my 8th year, and I finally got it done of my own. So ended up getting he's not back from the taxidermist yet, so I haven't had him officially scored, but we're guessing a 320 bull. Do it yourself,
nice.
ground. And this one was actually in Wyoming is where we got this bull. And I ended up getting him. It was less than a mile from the trailhead. Trailhead. It was about probably 3/4 of a mile, I'm guessing. And I'm telling you, I underestimated the challenge of actually skinning, taking the quarters off a 700-pound animal.
I mean, 700 pounds.
I'm talking, I know guys do it, but you're a man. If you've hauled out your bull by yourself, taking 3 or 4 trips, like I was fortunate enough that I had a friend with me when I shot it. And then we were able to call a couple other guys. We had 4 guys that were total there. And one guy was just pretty much just there for the ride and, the flashlight help. And there's about 3 of us working pretty good on it. And I'm saying it's still a little hard work, just maneuvering the animal. So it probably took us 2 hours to get them all skinned and deboned. And then we ended up taking 2 trips out with backpacks. And I'm telling you, it was hard work. And it wasn't even an elevation gain or decline. It was kind of a straight shot out, and it was still hard.
I mean, your packs were probably what, 70 plus pounds?
Yeah, I'm guessing 70 to 80. I didn't weigh it, but just guessing. And then it's a little more awkward, and it's well, with me, it was late evening when I shot mine, so of course
in the
it's
dark,
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
And you're tired, and
yeah. So getting it off the mountain is a challenge, and you better be in shape for that part. That's when the work began.
Yeah, it's fine getting it, but then it's once you get it, getting it out. I mean, that's even like whitetail hunting. Like when I got my buck last year, like it's like, okay, great. We have to go up and down like 2 drainage ditches. It's not anything like what you had to deal with, but it's still like that's work. I was exhausted, and I only had to drag it like 500 yards, not 70 pounds on my back, going probably a mile or so like you did.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I'm backcountry normally with the horses, and we're 3 to 5 miles deep, and I'll see individuals come by themselves with their bow, and I'm like, what in the hell are you going to do if you actually get one? Like, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, it's September, it gets hot.
Yeah,
you're talking 2 days probably to get that thing off the mountain.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of meat that goes to waste.
Yeah, I
September.
mean, I don't know what they're planning on doing. I suppose they got buddies in the area. Maybe they could call, but I'm like, what are you doing back here? I mean, I know it can be done. Don't get me wrong, but like it would be a challenge.
Yeah, like 5 mile, like hiking that out and then needing to go back.
I suppose if you were by yourself, you might be able to do it in 3 trips, maybe two if you were
Well,
wanting
I
to do
had a client, she
it by
got
yourself.
a cow elk last year and she hauled it off the mountain by herself. She wasn't that far deep. She was only like a mile and a half deep, but it took her 3 trips for a cow by herself. So I'm like, a bull?
So I suppose a cow, you may be dealing with 150, 170 pounds through the 3 trips. A bull, you're probably talking 220, 240 with a bone in. I'm guessing maybe a little bit more, especially if you have the cape. So yeah,
Ugh.
so if you got, I mean, you're probably looking at. I know I have had a cousin of mine and a friend. They took a bull off in one trip, each of them, and it was about a 2 mile ruck, and it about dang near killed him off.
I
So
would imagine.
two, I know 2 trips is possible, but more likely you're looking at 3 to 4.
Yeah. To to have like 200 pounds on your back, like, oh, I can't imagine like the next day, like your knees and hips and back.
Yeah. So just to put in perspective, my elk after it was all deboned, just the meat, I got 170 pounds this last year.
Nice. Nice. You've been eating good then.
Yeah, well, the burger was gone in 2 or 3 months. We have a few steaks and a few roasts left, but it was phenomenal. Actually, my wife told me not to come home this September until I get one. So,
She liked it that much.
yes,
Nice.
the family absolutely loves it. So yeah, I mean, you add back in the bone, and then I this was my first elk, and I caped it, and the head and the rack and the cape, I don't even know what it weighed, but I suppose it was 40 plus pounds, just
Wow.
that alone. And I made a mistake. I didn't go high enough
Oh
on
no.
the so when I got down and when we caped it, once we got down, I bet I left on an extra 15 pounds of just ucky, neck meat that I could have like reduced my weight out. I'm like, what the heck was I doing? So you just learn something all the time, something new.
I mean, every season I learn, like last year, I had a bunch of mess ups. I'm like, okay, this season, I'm going to make sure those things don't happen. So, yeah, every year you're learning something like that. Like, why did I do that? That just made like 15 pounds. That's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
weight in the backcountry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you made your life so much harder than it needed to be, but you're excited and tired. So,
Yeah. So guess what's happening this year? My friends that I usually go with, they like to go like September 15th, September 17th through
okay.
the rut's a little bit more going on a little bit just vocal,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're a little bit in action. And I'm like, well, I have a senior in high school this year that is going to contribute a lot to the high school football team. I'm not missing a Friday night.
Fair.
So I'm going to come off the mountain and drive 8 hours home on Friday. And then I'm going to watch the football game. And then Saturday morning, I'm going to drive 8 hours to get back to the mountain and then get back up to camp. So if I'm just going to go on the 15th, or the 16th, and then I have to drive home one of those times, it really reduces my hunting days. So I'm actually going to go out a week earlier than
Okay.
everybody else. I'm going to hunt solo for the first week. So like
Nice.
September 9th through like the 16th, I'm going to go solo just because I want extra days. And honestly, I would love the challenge if I could get one to get that bull elk off the mountain by myself.
We are gluttons for punishment. That is I mean, I just because I'm like my hunting's so easy compared to you. Like I'm a tree stand hunter. Like I don't have to carry it that far, but I will still like purposely make it harder than it need to be and like not go get like the tractor or the wheelbarrow. I will drag it out myself. Because we are just gluttons for punishment.
Oh yeah. Now I grew up a whitetail hunter. I grew up tree stand hunting, and it wasn't until I was about 30ish that I got this wild hair that I want to start doing these backcountry hunts. And then now I've pretty much gone about every year since.
That's awesome.
And I've been spending less time in the tree stand. Just not that I don't love, but I just don't know. You can't replace the middle of September, 10,000 foot in elevation, beautiful scenery, and you have bugling bulls around you that like sound like historic dinosaurs that you're calling in. Like I couldn't even imagine anything that could replicate that. Like it's amazing. So like I don't see myself giving that up anytime soon, but you have to have your health to be able to do that. right?
Absolutely.
So I am just crushing it right now because I might not be able to do that when I'm 70, 80 years old. So I'm going after it hard right now while I have my health. And, like yourself, Chris, like you work really hard with your clients to focus on their health and so they can do these kind of things
Absolutely.
for a long time. So,
What does your training program look like right now? Because we're when we're recording this, we're at the end of July. So this episode is going to come out early to mid August. So it's like September's right around the corner when the show's out and listeners are listening to it. So what's your training program looking right now? And then what could you like recommend someone doing if they're like, maybe I should take things a little bit more seriously?
yeah. So my regimen right now is I usually lift 6 days a week.
Okay, nice.
And that is, and I'm not saying that everybody would need to lift 6 days a week to hunt elk or do what
But
they need to do.
you also
But
compete in bodybuilding. So there's that
yeah,
asterisk there.
it's I have a lot of hobbies and lifting weights is another hobby that I absolutely just enjoy. So I just enjoy being there. So 6 days a week I'm lifting 45 minutes.
Okay. So not
Uh,
crazy long.
no, maybe an hour at most on a leg day. And then currently I'm getting 20 to 40 minutes of cardio every day.
Okay, nice.
And
7 days
that,
a week.
yep, 7 days a week.
Okay.
I'm not really taking any time off because there's a few days that I'm just walking the dog, right?
That was going to be my next question. What's your cardio actually look like?
Yeah. So 2 days a week, I'm doing stair steppers for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Right. And then another 2 days a week, I'm walking uphill,
Okay.
like a 10 incline at a 3 speed
Okay.
for 20 to 40 minutes.
Nice.
And then once to twice a week, I am putting a about 35 pounds. I'm going to maybe go 40. I like to go about 20% of my body weight.
Mm-hmm.
And some people like to start with about 10% of their body weight in my ruck, in my backpack. And I'm actually going and walking about 2 miles, and it's about 30 minutes that I am walking with about 35, 40 pounds on my back.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
Nothing
Awesome.
crazy.
No, no, the rucking, like rucking's so easy for most people to do. Like just grab a backpack or a weight vest and just go for a walk.
Yep. And the intensity, I suppose I was checking, that's about 100 heartbeat, per minute, and none of my cardio gets crazy high intense. So the stair stepper could be, that 120 to 140 range. That's probably the hardest.
But you're kind of hanging out like that zone 2 range for pretty much every single day.
Every single,
So not beating yourself up with hit workouts for an hour every day. You're just
nope.
zone 2, maybe topping out at zone 3 with that
Yep.
stair stepper. Yeah, you're feeling pretty good. You're probably not feeling beat up from those workouts.
No, I'm recovered. I feel really good. Time wise, I can get it done. It's not too much to ask.
Yeah.
To get it done. And then the only thing that we can't really just replicate or produce around here is the elevation, the altitude. And I'll just have to face that when I get there.
Yeah, that's if I have anyone East Coast going out there, it's always recommended like get out there like a week early because
Yeah.
we're I'm like I think 300 feet above sea level. As like you go over to Colorado, is like, oh shit. Okay.
This is different. So a lot of times we would get there on like a Thursday-ish, and season would open on like a Saturday, maybe. So maybe we'd get there Wednesday, Thursday, 2 or 3 days to just get used to the air and maybe do some glassing. And
Nice.
then we'd head up the mountain after 2 or 3 days. I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, if I'm going to hit base and head up. I don't know, but usually it's a 2 or 3 day window we give ourselves just to get used to the elevation.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I know I have a couple people on my roster now, like they're starting to get ready, not this year, but next year for their elk hunts, who are like more East Coast. I have some Western people who are hunting, but they kind of have the luxury of being able, I'll just go up in the mountain and they just live acclimated year round. But yeah, it's you definitely need to get out there. When my wife and I took a vacation out to Colorado, that was like when I realized, oh crap, because we stayed at Airbnb at 8,000 feet. So we went from like here to 8,000 feet. It's like, oh, this is a thing.
And then camping at 10.5 or 11. I mean, that's a change too. And
Yeah.
not coming down. It's a little different. I've never personally had any issues with it. One of my hunting partners, he did before, about 10, 15 years ago, before he actually had to go to the hospital. I don't remember exactly what was happening, but it was kind of due to the elevation and altitude.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're more in shape because your body can better utilize oxygen, you run less risk. Like if you're out of shape and you're going into that, like your body's pretty inefficient at utilizing oxygen for fuel. So you're going to go into a low oxygen environment. Not good.
Yeah, not good. So I feel like if everybody could just get consistency, 20 to 40 minutes a day, they would be ready. Maybe add that stair stepper, maybe add that ruck pack, because I've gone training before and then get out there and then walk around my day pack with 20 pounds, maybe when you add
Mhm.
water and stuff, 25, your shoulders and just your auxiliary muscles are just not used to that. And then you're sore. So I would recommend getting that ruck on once or twice a week as well.
Yeah. The ruck definitely, that's what I emphasize with most of my hunting clients of like get the weight vest on or get the pack on and then work up to above what your day pack's going to be.
Yep.
So like if, like you said, if it's 20, 25 pounds, we want to be 30, 40, maybe right at the very end, like the last few weeks, push it to 50.
Mm-hmm.
But I know the military did research and they find like injury starts to skyrocket above 50. So it's like that's like the last week we might push that. But other than that, it's like 30 to 40 range. I always just do 40 for myself.
I think that's a good ratio. And if you did that 10 or 20% of your body weight, you'd probably be pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Don't start there. Start at like 10% of your body weight and work up.
Yes, and work your way up because your tendons and tissue can only handle so much. Now, a good tip that I've used is wear your backpack, your ruck pack, while you're shooting your bow too, because I've been in a lot of situations out in the back country that you got your ruck on, right? And it gets hot fast, the elk bugles, and they're only 100, 200 yards away. You might not have time to get that ruck off, and it can change your grip a little bit. Just get used to that backpack on and drawing your bow back. I think that would be beneficial.
I mean, that's actually really good. I never thought of that, but yeah, you would. It might be challenging to do that. You always think like you're gonna like sit down and drop it and be in the perfect position, but it's just like tree stand hunting where like you probably want to practice in your tree stand because
Yes.
that was some of my mess ups last year. Of like even though I did some practice, there are certain situations that arose. I'm like, I never even thought of this. This needs to change for next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So do that. And so there'll be some days, and you have to shoot your bow a lot.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I will put my ruck on and shoot my bow. And, I don't go much past 60 yards or so, but I'll go back and shoot one arrow at 60 yards. And then I'll get my arrow, walk back. So then I'm getting my cardio in as I'm,
That's
shooting
a
my
good tip.
with an elevated heart rate.
Yeah, so you're practicing with that elevated heart rate where you're a little shaky. And if you can
Mhm.
steady that you should be okay when buck fever hits you.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can ever fix that one, but
No,
yeah, if you can and just try to practice in those scenarios, I think it will definitely help. So that was key to my success because I had my backpack on this last year, and just things happen quickly.
yeah, I mean things happen quick. I can't imagine like a 700-pound animal in front of you like that, but just like whitetail hunting, like the buck I got last year, like that happened super quick. It was all of a sudden it's like, nope, it's in front of me. Nope, it's here. Okay, release arrow.
Wow.
Next
So
next thing you know, buck down and oh shit, that was fast.
I was just thinking about my hunt last year. Just quick story. So it was Friday morning, and my son was a junior, and I wasn't going to miss any games. And I'm like, "Oh, let's go out for an hour or two." And we called in this bull from a half mile away, and he came in, and I completely blew it. Like he was quarter mile away, and then a couple hundred yards away, and then he went silent, and I just wasn't ready for him. And then he came in, I could just see the top of his rack, and I made the biggest mistake ever. I didn't know when to draw my bow.
Oh shit.
I was just like focusing too much on the situation of watching him come. And then right when he cleared the opening, he was looking for the cow. Right.
And
and it is so alert. And then instantly I'm like, oh, now I got to draw back. And I drew back. Instantly he comes with me. I released my arrow and he spun the arrow. And it was a monster. And I was sick. I was just sick. So I had to drive 8 hours home in my sorrows. And everybody's like, oh, you'll get another chance. And I'm like, no, it's the national forest. Like, I won't get a better opportunity ever. And it was a monster bull. I screwed up. So there's little things like that you have to start like focusing in, but you can't get those reps just at home. So drawing and knowing when to draw, like I should have drew earlier, or I should have let him clear out in the opening and then drew back. But so there's so many things that can go wrong. Even if you call in a bull and you get him 20, he wasn't more than 27 yards away from me, and I blew it. So I came home and went back to the mountain on Saturday. Sunday morning, nothing. Sunday night, I went back to that same area. Sure enough, I got a response a half-mile away. And I'm like, it is like, can't remember the exact time, but I think it got dark around 7. So it was like 6:30 and it's still a half-mile away. I'm like, there's just no way. Like, there's just too much distance in between us. And again, we bugled and he would get closer. We could get him closer. Like, oh man, what's going on? Maybe this is going to happen. And all of a sudden, it's like 2 minutes before just pitch black. And I heard some ruckus down below me. Sure enough, he came all the way in from a half-mile away, was down below me about 47 yards. Perfect, like just looking up at me. It was just the most beautiful thing ever, and released the arrow. Nice. And I thought it was a good hit, right? I thought it was a good hit, but it was so dark, I couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
So I went down to where I shot and there was no blood and no arrow. And I had no idea if it was a big elk, small elk. I just knew it was a branched bull. And I'm like, I swear I heard it, but maybe it was a thud off a tree. I don't know. We searched for an hour and a half in the area and finally just randomly found my arrow, and it was covered in blood. But there was no blood before it and no blood after it. So I'm like, ah. So at first, like the first hour and a half, I'm like, oh man, we're searching for nothing. I blew it again. How could this happen? Finally, an hour and a half in, so it's probably 10 o'clock at night now, we found the arrow. I'm like, okay, it's bloody. There's hope. So we had to search another hour and a half in the area, and he wasn't more than 150 yards from where I got him. Piled up. And it must have been a higher lung shot, and he just didn't bleed out. So there's no trail. It was brutal.
It was like all the blood was like just in the lungs.
Yeah, just in the lungs. And then when he finally died, he was just in a pool of blood. Like, so he just choked on it. And then that's what I mean. So he didn't suffer or anything like that, but it was just a hard trail to track because there was no blood. So we were in the area. Talk about the emotions, like missing him a good one on Friday, not knowing if I hit him and killed him on Sunday. And sure enough, when we got up to this bull, it was the same one I missed on Friday.
Was it?
It was the same one. I was, oh my gosh. And I was so emotional. And I don't know what to tell you of the hundreds of miles that I hiked and the thousands and the tens of thousands of dollars that I've spent and time away from the family. All the emotions just hit, dude. I was able to hold together, like taking a couple photos, and I called home at like 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the morning. And I kind of lured them about 8, 9 o'clock. I thought I had a bull down, so they must have been by their phones, but my family answered, and I started telling them like, God, and I was showing the pictures, and I just started bawling like a baby, dude. It was just the most like wonderful experience of my life, but I just couldn't control my emotions. It was nuts.
That's amazing. It is always emotional. Like it doesn't matter. It's always emotional when you get one, but you put in so much time and effort that is like all came together all at once.
Oh, yeah. Epic experience. So that's my bow hunting. That's my journey so far. A lot of mistakes I've made, a lot of trial and error, but now I feel like I should have pretty good success year after year. And then especially spending more time and getting a dial. I'm hoping to come home with an elk every year.
Well, that was your mistake about like knowing when to draw back. That's been my mistakes past couple years.
Oh, really?
And it's like, because it's not something like you really get taught ever. When I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you never really get taught. It's like, but you need to draw back like when they're not looking at you. But then you see the deer, it's like you also can't draw back and like hold it for 5 minutes.
No.
So it's like, when do you draw back? And that was, I made that mistake of like, draw back, they catch you immediately, and then you get blown. Like, nope,
Yeah.
you're busted. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So that was my buck last year of came in and then I couldn't draw, couldn't draw. I was like ready. I was here, 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 here. Couldn't draw, couldn't draw. And as soon as his head went behind a tree,
Hmm.
drew. As like at that point, then he like poked out, looked at me. I'm like holding, 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 takes a step right behind the shoulder. And he was like maybe 15 yards away from me. So I was like
That's
really,
awesome.
really close. And then I was like, heard that hit, but then I couldn't find the arrow because it like dug itself so deep into the ground.
Oh gosh.
So
They're
I
just
couldn't find the arrow. So I saw blood everywhere, but I'm like, was it a good hit? Was it
yeah.
not? Like I had so many doubts because I've had like other bad things happen, all the things. And then like after I drag him out, I'm like, okay, my arrow's around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I found him. He went like maybe 150 yards. Blood's everywhere. So drag him out, and then I'm like, oh, there's the arrow. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect, like double lung shot. Of course
Mm.
it is. But what's
That's
your
perfect. Like that's exactly what I'm talking about. Time or intention. It took experience to be able to know when you drew back.
yeah?
Like there were so many mistakes you had to make and I made to be able to make it happen. It's just time out there. It will result in good things. What was I gonna say with that? The oh, holding your bow. That was a good comment you mentioned. Do you ever train holding your bow for a
Yes.
minute okay. I don't do that enough, but I try to at least hold it for a minute at times
Yeah.
and then shoot.
I do that. I like set like a timer on my phone. It's like as soon as the alarm goes off, then you shoot. It'll be like a minute or 45 seconds. It's like you're just like holding it like 20 yards, but then you can go back and go back and go back. And yeah, I'll do that. I picked that up from Remy Warren. He did like a podcast. He's like a couple different things. He's like, do that. He's like, shoot from like different positions, like if you're kneeling. And then
Yep.
it was like shoot around things because if you're in
Yes.
the backcountry and there's branches, like learn how to like shoot through that.
Yep. I do listen to Remy. He puts out some good information. So with that being said, branches and like you had a good pass through in your arrow, what kind of setup do you use for like broadhead, arrow, draw weight, all that?
70-pound draw weight. I'm still on my newbie bow, the first bow I ever bought for hunting, which it's the Bear G2 Cruiser.
Uh-huh.
It's $350 bow, and it's worked so far. um, I want to upgrade it eventually, but it's one of those things that I'm like, there's no reason to upgrade, and bows
Right.
are expensive. Um, I've upgraded everything on the bow, so I upgraded the sight, um, the peep, and the rest. So I do use a drop away rest now.
Yep.
Um, and then I tried with the buck. I used the new Annihilator broadheads
Yep.
that came out. I did that and it worked just like they said. It is a small hole, but that hole does not close up. I will say it is like you just like took like something like this and just like poked it through the deer. Um, so it worked really well. I've used the Rage mechanicals in the past. Um, when they work, fantastic. But I've also had one of them like get stuck in a doe's shoulder and then no blood trail, nothing. I'm like, that was a good hit. And there's that doe's running around with the arrow in it.
Wow. Oh my
So
God.
um I've moved a little bit. I'm like in between this year. I train with both, so I always keep like both a fixed blade and mechanical in my arrow
Hmm.
rest. So I have both ready. I'm always like depends on the area I'm in, where I'm hunting, whether I'll go with more like the fixed blade
Yep.
or the mechanical. If the mechanical is like um there's like less branches and stuff around that potentially could just snag it and have that thing open up. I will go with the fixed blade. But if there's open field, they're probably going to
Yep.
be pretty close. I don't have to worry about it failing. I will go with that mechanical and get that nice big
Yeah.
cut in it.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's two broadheads I have experience with. The Annihilator and the Rage. So I want to be able to have both in my quiver,
Mhm.
a fixed and a mechanical. I have the damnedest time getting those fixed blades dialed in.
Really? Because I
I
didn't have any issues with the Annihilator. I didn't have issues with some of the other ones I have.
I can just tack drive my mechanicals. I must torque, maybe. I don't know. We've tuned my bow. I just don't have good luck with fixed broadheads. Don't know why, but I
Hmm.
like the idea behind the Annihilator, and I'd love to have it in my quiver for those situations of debris or up close, or maybe just whatever reason you may need it. I just can't get it dialed in. So that's my problem there. And I want to comment, I have nothing against Rage, but I last year, the first half of my season, I was using Rage, the no collar, was
Yeah.
it hyperthermic?
Yes.
They're not ideal for backcountry hunting because they have a tendency to come open when you're out there. So if you have to move around a little bit and you have one knocked, I was having them like break open.
Yeah.
And that would be a disaster if I had to take it, and do something different and a bull's coming in and your mechanical's halfway open.
Yeah.
So I ended up switching to the Schwacker,
Uh-huh. Yes. My buddy
and
hunts with those.
I that's what I killed my bull with, is the
Oh,
Schwacker.
nice.
And they
Nice.
stayed close. It was nice. I wanted to go with a 2 inch, but my guy that sets up my bow, he liked the 175. And so I used the 175 Schwacker 100 grain, and it did the job.
Perfect. I I get the idea behind like the bigger, like the 2 inch cuts. Um, I've just had so many shots where it's like that shoulder blades there, and with the like that slightly smaller, like it's you're more likely to go in between the rib and not get it stuck on stuff. And that's what happened. I used it, the one that got stuck in the shoulder blade and we couldn't recover. That was a 2 inch. And it's like
Yeah.
it's probably just stuck, and it's gonna, unfortunately take a while
Hmm.
to
I didn't
pass.
think of it that way, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I learned something new today. That makes sense. I was shooting it and he was wanting me to have the smaller one because I have a shorter draw length.
Okay.
So I'm like, what, 27 draw length, and I'm shooting an older Matthews bow. So we actually dialed my arrow down to a 4 millimeter, brought down
Nice.
8, and with the smaller, like we were really going after speed and penetration.
Okay. What's the how many grains are you shooting?
I went down to 455.
Okay.
I think I was
Nice.
upwards of 525, 515 in my first setup, and then we just kind of redid the bow because I was trying to get it. The guy I was hunting with, he swore that bowl, my bow was too slow and that elk should not have spun that string. But so he's like, we got to redo this thing. So he's like, get me new 4 millimeter arrows when you stop at Cabela's on the way back, and we build out a whole new system for my bow for the second half of last year just
Oh,
to get it a
wow.
little bit faster. He's like, there's no way you should miss that bowl. And I'm like, well, I did. So yeah, it was kind of unique. We went with a lighter arrow, lighter setup, and increased the speed. And I don't know if it's end all be all, but it got the job done.
Nice. Mine's about like 475. I think it's like
Um,
478 and a half or something grains. One of
mm,
those like weird random numbers, but that's been working great. Because I tried like heavier, like up to like 550, and
yeah.
that was just because my draw length is like 31.
Yep.
So at that heavy, it was just like it was not doing well with the spine of my arrows. It's just like not okay. We're dropped it down. And it's like okay, perfect.
Yeah. That's one thing I want to learn more about, the mechanics of the bow. Like I've always just had some friends and people that knew a lot that could help me out, but I want to start tinkering with my bow a little bit to be able to understand it. I've kind of avoided that. It's just because I have way too many hobbies, but
Yes.
definitely need to start learning more about my bow, especially when you're out and maybe need to do a repair or do something else. Like I don't know a whole lot about it. I probably wouldn't be able to repair my bow if I needed something minor out in the backcountry. So something I want to take on and
Mm.
start.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I don't know if I could like actually repair the bow. I do always carry like one of the like the little drill things because I've had like a screw loose here or there, like get in the stand, and you're like, motherfucker,
Mm,
shit. I don't is this safe to shoot? So I always keep that in my bino harness. That just lives there the entire archery season of like, okay, like if I get in the stand and I notice something's a little loose, because I always check, but before I go hunt. But
Yeah.
sometimes you're like excited or kids getting you distracted.
Yeah.
You miss something. And then that was like my string stop was like super loose. It was like went all the way.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell's going on here? Tighten that real quick. We're good to go.
Yeah. Those little things you just don't think about. And then you get way back there in the stand and the opportunity comes and your bow fails you. It'd just be hard. It'd be just terrible. Like,
Yeah.
so something I need to learn, something I need to be more prepared for. I know for the sure, because it's probably going to come up someday.
Probably. I mean, you do it enough that things come up.
Yeah. Knock on
It,
wood. Right.
knock on wood, it never comes up, but it's just like by chance, like 1% chance. Well, you keep having that 1% chance day in, day out. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're starting to run out of time a little bit, but the other thing you do, so obviously hunting and bodybuilding are your hobbies, but you actually run a wealth management company and an accounting firm.
Yeah. So health and wealth, man, that's
Yep.
it's two of my favorite things. It just there's so much they go together so well. You know,
Yes.
you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you don't have your health, like what's that going to do for you?
Right.
And
You're going to spend all your money on trying to get your health back.
yeah, so that's where I like to focus is making sure that we take care of ourselves. Work with a lot of clients that value health and wealth, and it's one of those things you just kind of just have passion around both of it. So it's like, why not put these together and start a business around it? And that's just kind of how we've been going the last, say, 5 years. I've been in the finance industry for 20.
Okay.
Well, not quite 20. I graduated in '04, so it's coming up on 20 years. I've been in the financial industry, and up to five years ago, we started a full service accounting firm just because we really dive into a lot of tax planning, right?
Mhm.
Because one of the biggest killers of wealth is taxes,
Yes.
especially of a lot of people that are earning a lot of money. So there's a lot of strategies out there that people don't know about, and there's also a lot of accountability needed because even you can preach these tax concepts to individuals, but if you don't do them, it doesn't do you any good. So holding people accountable and then bring in tax strategies is kind of one of the main things we do for people that face big tax bills or have tax problems. And then along with that, the investment management comes along with that because you have to form the two together. So that's why they call it like tax planning and financial planning, because you have to have all that mirrored together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I work with you. I get some of it, but there's so much of it. I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this.
Right, right. And then it goes into like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
You
then so
you have 20 years of experience, and I'm like, I've read a book.
and then just on the job experience, you see and hear things. And so when I do that for a living, I work every day with people across the country. I do learn new things. I find new ideas out, and then I can present them to my clients and we can move forward with the strategies.
Nice. Nice. And you work mostly with like fitness companies, but you do work with everyone though.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So the Fit CFO firm that we run, the accounting firm, we've really stayed true to the health and fitness industry and entrepreneurs. So we've niched down completely there. The Fit Wealth Advisors, it's more of a complexity issue. So if you have high income or a tax problem or a lot of investable assets that you need help with, that's some problems that we can solve. A lot of times, what I do find our clients end up like just like us, they value health, they value wealth, and it's like a lot of them seem to be entrepreneurs because we want to create wealth and generational wealth, and we like the idea of the grind. So, but
Yes.
definitely work with clients in all sorts of industries on the wealth management side space, but they tend to be very health conscious individuals that value their wealth.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you have something you want to give that we're going to be dropping down in the show notes if anyone's interested and needs help.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to offer a free financial health assessment for all the listeners, and there's no obligation, but we will send you a link and you can add some of your information in there. And I kind of tell you where you stand and what your financial health is. and hopefully kind of go over some strengths, some weaknesses, and maybe some opportunities. And if it goes further than that, that's great. And if not, hopefully I could bring some value to the listeners.
Awesome. So that link is going to be down below in the show notes. So make sure you go and check that out, especially if you need any help with anything that Shawn just talked about. And then where else can people find you on social media?
So under Shawn Hanquist right now.
Nice. And then you have a podcast as well, right?
Yep. The Fit Wealth Show.
Nice. So that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. My wife handles most of the marketing side of things, but yes, I believe they're on. I know Apple for sure, but I assume they're on all the platforms.
Okay. So probably on all platforms. And where can they follow your wife as well? Because she has a great account as well.
Yeah. So Amanda Hanquist, you'd be able to find her on social. She does a lot of awesome information on the health side too. More on the application side of things. And then she will put out some content for our company as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Shawn, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. I love talking about hunting with you. And then obviously, guys, make sure to give Shawn a follow down below and do his assessment as well.
Alrighty. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode. Make sure to go down, give Shawn a follow, and if you or you know somebody who has a small business and they need help with their finances, send them the link or do it yourself. The financial health assessment Shawn is doing. It is free value to you, especially if this is something that you are struggling with. As always, also make sure give him and his wife a follow. With that being said, if you're a hunter and we are coming down to the wire, we are halfway through August already. September 1st is right around the corner and October 1st isn't too far away from that. So down below is a free 12-week rucking guide. I think we have less than 12 weeks we definitely have less than 12 weeks till October, but it can at least get you started if you haven't done anything yet. To get you in the cardiovascular shape you need to be in to have a successful hunt, or at least get you closer to it, so that when you're dragging the big buck out of the woods, you're not feeling like, oh my God, am I going to have a heart attack right now? And if you're not a hunter, we also have our 5-day faster fat loss course, but the Rucking Guide is also great for anyone who wants to just get in shape, but you don't like the treadmill, or treadmill beats you up. Like running really beats me up, and Rucking is a great way to get similar cardiovascular benefits without beating up my joints. I get shin splints like a motherfucker, and I just can't run. My Achilles gets beat up, my knees get beat up, my hips get beat up. I am too heavy to run for my body. I got shin splints when I was a 150-pound cross-country runner. At 210, I am popping shin splints left and right. So make sure to check those out. But as always, please leave a review before you go click on anything. Drop 5-star rating, and then also write a review, as that is always appreciated and it helps get the word out to other people so everyone else can find the show. Thank you for tuning in, guys.